Good evening, everyone. The time is 7 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This meeting is being recorded.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Recording in progress.
Oh, I can hear now.
Okay. Vice President Ferguson, could you do the invocation, please?
Oh, okay. Good evening, everyone. Father, we come to you this evening with a grateful heart. We thank you, Lord Jesus, how you have kept us another day, and we're so thankful that you have even kept our family and our friends. We ask that you will grace us with your presence in this meeting tonight and help us to display the fruit of the Spirit as we meet. Father God, that we will show love and joy and peace and have patience, self-control, kindness and faithfulness towards the citizens of Glenarden. Father God, I ask that you would just bless us with wisdom and wise counsel as we meet tonight. Bless our citizens and employees and the families and their families. In Jesus' name, amen.
Sir, could you do a roll call, please?
Sure. Councilwoman Fareed,
Here.
Councilwoman Guillaume,
Here.
Councilman Hairston,
Here.
Councilman Herring,
Here.
Councilwoman Jones,
Here.
Council Vice President Ferguson,
Here,
and Council President Curtis.
Here.
All are present. You have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
second.
Second by Vice President Ferguson. Any discussion?
I have discussion, Council President.
Councilwoman Jones?
Yes, I'd like to bring a resolution to include in the agenda for tonight, resolution to revise the rules and regulations and the fee schedules for the Gold Room and the Community Center at Woodmore Town Center. I'd like to bring that resolution to the floor tonight.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, could you do the roll call, please?
Sure. Councilwoman Fareed,
Yeah.
Councilwoman Guillaume,
Yes.
Councilman Hairston,
Yes.
Councilman Herring,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jones,
Yes, with the inclusion of the resolution that I requested.
Council Vice President Ferguson,
Yes,
and Council President Curtis.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Jones. I forgot to say that. All right.
7-0.
All right. With that said, the agenda has been set. First on the agenda, the clerk has submitted the meeting minutes for the month of April. It is available for council members for review. Are there any questions related to those minutes? Comments? Okay. Hearing none, we'll be voting on those minutes in the regular session in a couple of weeks. Next up on the agenda is the presentation by our auditors for the audited financial statements for fiscal year 2022. With that, Mr. Stewart, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Do you want to do the
after-
introduction?
Yes, so good evening, everyone. Our new auditors actually started our audit for this fiscal year, the 2022 audit, and their company name is SB and Company. And we have Mr. Bill Seymour, one of the partners of the company, and he will be presenting our financials and our audited financial statement for 2022. Thank you. Mr. Bill?
Mr. Bill, thank you for joining us.
Council
Thank you.
President, if I may, I'm sorry. Do you have, Mr. Seymour, do you have a presentation that you need me to share the screen with?
If you can give me the ability to share a screen, I can do that, or I can send it to you really quickly, Council Clerk.
I've just shared the screen for you, sir.
All right. All right, there we go. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Bill Seymour. I'm the engagement partner with SB and Company. I'm sharing my screen. You should see it says fiscal year 2022 audit results for the city of Glenarden. This represents our required communications under generally accepted auditing standards, and I'm going to walk through this. So feel free to stop me with any questions that you may have. We were engaged to perform an audit of the June 30, 2022 financial statements, as well as a review of the uniform financial report. That takes the city's financial statements and puts them in a fit and format for the Maryland Department of Legislative Services, and as well as working with management on a year-round basis as items come up. Summary of the results: we've issued an unmodified, or if you will, clean opinion on the financial statements. That is the best opinion that we are allowed to issue under generally accepted auditing standards. Through our procedures, we did not discover any instances of fraud. I would caution, however, that our audit is not a fraud audit. That would be different in scope. However, professional standards require that we do maintain a healthy skepticism for fraud, look for fraud in what it is that we're testing. And through those procedures, we did not note any instances. We discovered no material weaknesses in internal controls and received the full cooperation of management. At a high level, during the year, at the end of the year, the general fund had about a $5.8 million fund balance, which represents approximately $851,000 increase over 2021. We noted as part of the audit that we had two restatements, one of which had to do with the due from between the general fund and the gold room. Approximately $965,000 had been advanced to the gold room, and because of the lack of income that the gold room has generated to date, it would not, on the set of financial statements, it would not be appropriate to show that as a receivable. So we removed the receivable and the liability, and you treat it now as a transfer. That being said, from a bookkeeping perspective, that if the gold room would become profitable in the future, you could still, just transfer the money back. And then on the entity-wide statements, there was a receivable that had been dated back for some time for approximately $600,000 that we removed to properly state those balances. And those really, if you will, from an audit perspective, were kind of the biggest issues that we encountered. And I would also go and say that, working with Dean, it wasn't where we found these items. It was a discussion that he put forth. That tells us that the controls are working. Our audit approach is a risk-based audit approach. The idea here is that we spend time to understand where the risks of material misstatement are, how management has designed and operated controls over the period to prevent or detect such misstatements, performance of various analytical procedures, substantive procedures, and then other audit standard required items. And this entire process is designed to allow us to obtain sufficient evidential matter to be able to issue that unmodified, or if you will, clean opinion. We start looking at the assessment of the control environment. That is following the COSO model of internal controls of 5 interrelated items of the environment, risk assessment, control activities, monitoring, and information and communication. In all cases, our assessment here was effective. We further then go down processes and the underlying functions as they relate to the financial statements and the information that goes into the financial statements. And once again, you can see in all cases, our assessment was effective. The remainder of our presentation goes through our specific required communications. This is our responsibility, our opportunity to chat with you about kind of what's underneath the hood of the audit. Whether or not management had identified or use, very aggressive or very conservative accounting policies, whether items, just barely fit within the standards, fraud if there was fraud, if there were material weaknesses, disagreements with management, serious difficulties, really kind of, if you will, everything that would go underneath there. We really have nothing of a negative nature to report. I would highlight point 13. As part of our audit, we did perform certain non-attest services in providing assistance with the drafting of the financial statements. However, we were able to satisfy ourselves to maintain our independence because we know Dean knows what's in the numbers and kind of the questions and the information that went into the statements, the allocation of where numbers went, all came from management. And I'll stop there for a moment to see if there's any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Seymour. Are there any questions from the council? Okay, seeing none, I don't see any, Mr. Seymour, so.
Okay, well, that's all I have. I want to thank Dean and everyone for their assistance and the opportunity to be of service.
All right, well, thank you for, you and your company taking us on as a client and for the services that you guys provided. And if you would like, you don't have to stay for the whole meeting. You can disconnect, but thank you again.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening.
All right, you too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. All right, moving on. We have draft legislation. First up is an emergency ordinance to reappropriate funds for fiscal year 2023. It is I can share my screen. Okay. As I said, emergency orders to reappropriate funds for fiscal year 2023. It's at the, I'm sorry, it's not sharing. Can you see it now? Can you see Ms. Jones? Okay. All right. At the request of the administration, sponsored by me, at the request of the administration, to reappropriate funds for fiscal year 2023. Dean, are you here? Oh, well, you are here. Did you want to explain this resolution as transfer, Mr. Stewart?
Sorry, yeah. Yes, I'm here, but Miss
Ms. Sabata, I'm sorry.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
yes, I drafted it, so
yes.
I'm sorry, Ms. Sabata.
that's okay, no problem. Okay, so the recommendation is to do some transfers and to appropriate from city reserves for the milling and resurfacing of Glenarden Parkway from Bright Seat to Jeff Road. You can see the revenue that would be pulled from reserves. And then on the expenditure side, we're transferring $40,000 from snow removal to the capital budget to support the milling and resurfacing of this project, Glenarden Parkway, increasing the capital budget by the revenue coming in from the reserves. And then in section 2, the sidewalks, curbs, and gutters on Glenarden Parkway, we're appropriating $100,000 of highway user funds, that's state funds, to the FY23 budget, and increasing the capital budget expenditures by the same amount. This is connected to an item coming up on your agenda shortly, having to do with the approval of concrete work for McLean and Hamlin, and a resolution to approve, oh, I'm sorry, it's related to the resolution to approve the removal and replacement of concrete on Glenarden Parkway. So it's recommended as an emergency ordinance so that we can have the funds in place when it gets started. The only thing that we will have to do once the council approves a resolution is to execute a contract with NZI Construction so they can get started. And it's my belief, from what I'm hearing from Mr. Simpson, who is also on the call this evening, that this work can be done based on his conversations with NZI Construction, that this work can be done by June 30th. So we'd like to get started and get it rolling. If there is a concern about doing an emergency ordinance as opposed to a true reading, there is in the budget, capital budget, currently $250,000 for road improvements. They could get started, and by the time second reading, you could have everything in place. I think we would feel more comfortable having it in place from the get-go, but that is also an option. So this ordinance addresses adding funds to cover both the concrete work and the milling and resurfacing for Glenarden Parkway. And you've got my memo with an explanation about the milling and resurfacing costs as it relates to the concrete improvements. And willing to take questions. And Mr. Simpson is here as well. If you have any questions for him, and if you have any questions for Mr. Stewart regarding the highway user funds or the transfer from reserves.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council members?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilman Harry?
Yes. So the work on Hammond Street, will that alleviate the water issue that the church is having of water running from off the street into the parking lot?
Mr. Simpson can answer that. Charles?
Good evening, council. I would say it would definitely help with that water situation. However, I could not guarantee that this particular work would alleviate water running into the parking lot of the church there.
Okay, because one of the issues was that it was running off the street into their parking lot and damaging their parking lot. And so is this on the same street, or is this, it's on that street, right? The work you're getting done.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It's on Hamlin Street. It is the sidewalk that ends at that wooded area, bringing that curb and sidewalk from that area up to the church area. It'll help alleviate, I guess, some of the dumping that is happening over there, but it does not address a water situation in the parking lot with that curb.
Okay, because I know that was an issue and a citizen brought it to our attention. And I was wondering, I mean, so is there going to be any type of, so for the entrance to the, so when, is the sidewalk going to go past the church or to the church? It's not going to go across the entranceway?
No, sir. It's going to come right up to the church entrance.
Okay, so it is not going to alleviate the issue that they have. Yeah, because they had an issue with that. And I know the citizens brought it to our attention. And I think, you know, we need to look at that also. Because even if it had a little lip on it, that would divert some of the water at least from off that street.
Yeah, I
would divert it down.
Yes, sir. You know, just looking at without going through and going back and analyzing it fully, I definitely would recommend the curb and possibly an apron area to also be done to do what you suggest and have that confirmed by our engineers.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilwoman Jones.
So wanted to add to that, the parking lot at that church, the way it's not flat. It's like it comes up and then it goes down. So that may be once the city does what they do, I think the church will need to go in and also address the parking lot themselves, because that parking lot is not a flat parking lot. It comes up and then it goes down, goes down into a hill and then comes back. And I think that's why they're catching water. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Jones. Any other comments related to this resolution? Any opposition to this being an emergency resolution? Okay. Hearing none. Unless I missed anybody, we can move on to the next item, which, as Ms. Habata stated, relates to this as well. A resolution to approve concrete work, including sidewalks on McLean and Hamlin Street. Just give me a second, let me bring it up. Ms. Sabata, would you like to share?
Sure. The resolution would approve and authorize a contract with NZI for concrete work on McLean and Hamlin Street, McLean Avenue and Hamlin Street. And the amounts are fairly modest, a total of $26,397.67. The money is in the capital budget, so this is can get started as soon as we sign a contract with NZI Construction.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Sabata. Are there any questions from council members? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is a resolution to approve the removal and replacement of concrete sidewalks and gutters and aprons. I think I just had that one up. I might have picked the wrong one. A resolution to approve the removal and replacement of concrete sidewalks, curb, gutters, aprons on Glenarden Parkway. And this is also sponsored, co-sponsored at the request of the administration. Ms. Sabata.
The work is $100,000 worth of concrete work on these on Glenarden, along Glenarden Parkway. It's suggested so that when the milling is being done, either prior to the milling or after the milling is done, that the concrete work can be done before it gets paved, so that we're not in a situation where we are trying to fix the curb and gutters when we just pave the street and having to dig it all up. So it's recommended that this be authorized to NZI, contract with NZI Construction for this concrete work, along with that goes with the milling and resurfacing of this same street. Any questions?
Any questions from council members? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move right on. Next up is a resolution to assure vaccination for uninsured children under 18 to enable their attendance in school in the city of Glenarden. This resolution is sponsored by Councilwoman Erica Fareed. Councilwoman Fareed?
Yes. Yes, thank you, Council President. It's also, and that was my fault, it's also co-sponsored by Councilwoman Guillaume, and then Councilwoman Ferguson has also requested to be on the legislation. So I don't know if you want to bring it up, or if we just want to see if anybody has questions.
No, I can bring it up. Hold on one second.
So I'll provide some context.
Okay.
In the city of Glenarden, at Judge Sylvania Woods Elementary School in particular, there are currently 6 students of families who live in Glenarden, and those children are not able to go to school right now because they are not fully vaccinated. At the state level, or let me say, they're not vaccinated with the requirements that PGCPS has in order to be in school. At the state level, the General Assembly did not pass legislation, although they did propose it, to allow pharmacists to be able to provide vaccinations to children under the age of 11, which is a much more accessible way for those who don't have insurance to be vaccinated, because of the fact that if you don't have insurance, you likely do not have money to go to the doctor to get vaccinated, because that typically is a doctor's appointment, which is a doctor's fee, whereas going to a pharmacy is, you know, you can just walk into CVS and then only have to pay for the vaccination itself. So that didn't pass, and so that's creating a bigger issue. And it's important that our children are healthy, and more importantly, that they're healthy enough to be able to attend school. Unfortunately, if kids are not able to be properly vaccinated, they will not be able to attend school, which you can imagine what that means for them in terms of being able to succeed academically. So this resolution is stating the city's commitment to helping ensure that those who are uninsured can be vaccinated. One of the items in here that I like to just point out is hosting a vaccination clinic in which licensed professionals who are able to administer would participate, and certainly those who have insurance would, you know, pay for their vaccinations that way. But the city of Glenarden would pay for the vaccinations of those children who live in the city of Glenarden who do not have insurance to be able to be vaccinated. And I mean, it's been shared with the council, so I won't read everything to you, but I guess I'll just stop there and see if anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Councilwoman Fareed. Are there any questions from the council?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilman Herring.
Well, I understand what the council members are trying to do. I think this is a very slippery slope, and it could be a major liability issue to the city of Glenarden when it comes down to getting into health situations and vaccinations and all this other stuff. Also, the state of Maryland has one of the most generous health insurance programs for children in the nation. Basically, the Maryland Children's Health Program will provide insurance and medical insurance based on income, you know, for children up to 19 years old. So I'm not understanding why we're going to take on this huge endeavor when there's already a system in place to insure most of the children in the state of Maryland. Yeah, I just think that, you know, we're a small municipality. We're not New York, we're not Washington, D.C., we're not none of these large cities that can fully fund a program like this. And when you already have a program in place, I think it's best to steer people to what's been working so far. I know a lot of children who have been covered by health insurance through the state of Maryland, either free or at a minimal cost. And insurance provides all the services that a child would need, immunizations, vaccinations, and all of that. I'm just trying to understand why are we getting into this when the system is already in place to address the situation of uninsured children in the state of Maryland.
So that is a great safety net that the state of Maryland has, but it does not cover everyone. I just mentioned the fact that there are families that reside currently in the city of Glenarden who are not able to be vaccinated and their children are out of school. If they were able to participate in that program so that they could be vaccinated and be in school, then this wouldn't have been a concern that the school was raising.
Let me ask a question. Did the school reach out to the parent and direct the parent to the state? Do you know that?
Yes, they have.
They have. And the state's not going to insure these children.
Well, there's certain things that you have to do in order to be insured. In some cases, people may not be documented. So they may
So
not
this is
be
for
able to
undocumented residents. Because if you're
that could
documented,
potentially
right,
that could potentially be a reason why someone would not be able to access that insurance. And to be clear, this is not saying that the city should provide insurance for those that are uninsured. This is to cover the cost of vaccinations to have them be eligible to attend school.
I'm just trying to figure out, because I know a lot of children that are under the Maryland program and who were born here, and they obviously are open to it. And I think actually undocumented children are also eligible for the same benefit. So I'm not understanding why there would be 6 children at that school who have not reached out to the state to get insurance. Like I said, I know people in my own family who have gone through the program and utilized the program. So I'm just trying to figure out these 6 people, why they're not reaching out to the state with it, where again, the program is very generous. And we're going to take on a burden I see it as a burden. I see it as, this is a small municipality, and paying for immunizations and people coming in, and then you opening it up the door, and you opening ourselves up to a liability issue. You're dealing with health issues. You're dealing with vaccinations. You may get people to bring it in to the store it right without insurance even covered. If somebody gets sick or somebody gets a vaccination and they have a reaction, will they sue the city of Glenarden? It's a lot of questions out there. I feel that we're putting ourselves into, when again, the state of Maryland has a program out there already for children. And I think we need to reach out to the state first and see where in the state and why these 6 individuals, because 6 is a very small number. And if there's 6 individuals that don't have health insurance, we need to figure out why in the state, is the state not insuring them? I'm just trying to get a better understanding. I can see if research was done and they say, well, they're not getting insured because of this, and this. They don't meet this criteria, don't meet that criteria. But I know a lot of children, and I've dealt with a lot of parents, and who have had the insurance through the state, and it's a very generous policy, and it's very cheap. So I'm just trying to figure out what the issue is with these 6. And, I would be very interested to see what's what, and why they're not reaching out to the state of Maryland with their program that they have, the Maryland Children's Health Program. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman Herring. I think, you raise a point that we can investigate further, but as I stated, this was raised by the school. It is a concern. These children are out of school. I also would like to highlight that this was reviewed by our attorney to ensure that there would not be any legal liability to the city for hosting a vaccination clinic. In fact, the city has hosted a vaccination clinic previously, and the vaccinations themselves would not be administered by the city, but rather would be administered by licensed professionals who are allowed to do that type of thing. And also, this legislation is not just about the vaccination clinic, but is also about highlighting and bringing awareness to the need for vaccinations. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, and even in years before that, the number of children being vaccinated has drastically been reduced. The World Health Organization has deemed a week to be World Immunization Week to highlight the importance, the need for children to be vaccinated to keep our community safe and healthy. So there are other elements of this legislation beyond the vaccination.
Can I ask a question that I'm curious about? Because this really is starting to raise questions for me. Why would the school come to the city, the Prince George's County school system, which has almost almost $1 billion budget, or close to it, if not that, come to us when they have more resources and services than we as a municipality have to assist these children. I'm just not understanding what are they doing and what efforts have they made to get these children insured? That's what I would like to know. Have y'all looked into that?
So I will say that the school is utilizing all sources of resource that is available to them. I have been meeting with the school because I worked with them last year and I built up a relationship with people there. And so this comes through just kind of conversations about what is happening in the school community and what are the needs. So this resolution was not something that the school asked me to do. This was a need that they have. These are, and again, these students are specifically students that live in the city of Glenarden. So it's not for the whole entire school. And to that point, in the resolution as it relates to paying for the vaccinations, it would be for citizens, residents of the city of Glenarden. So as a municipality, we do have resources. We have residents that we want to provide resources to. So yes, there are other things that, the state, the county, the federal government may even be doing, but that doesn't preclude us as a city from being able to offer services to our citizens as well, because they do pay taxes, to the city as well.
And I guess I understand them paying taxes, but they also pay Maryland taxes and state taxes as well, and they should be insured. If there's a program out there for them, then the state of Maryland should insure them. And it just felt like something's not being told here, because I can't see why 6 students out of almost 500 students in that school, 6 are not being insured, and no one knows why. And the school is sitting there saying these kids can't go to school, and because they're not insured, and the school system is sitting there allowing this to happen. And see, that's what I'm having a problem with understanding, is that these children are being left by the wayside, and it's up to us to do that when we got a school system in a state that handles a lot of this stuff already. And I'm not understanding why we haven't reached out to the school system to find out, 1, what are they doing? 2, why have they not reached out to the state of Maryland and find out why they're not being insured under the Maryland Children's Health Insurance Plan? And 3, how does this make? I'm just completely flustered, because I'm telling you, I'm not understanding why questions aren't being asked, because I don't understand why a resolution will be brought forth if these questions haven't been answered yet. What is the state doing? Why are we paying our tax dollars for these benefits, but yet we're going to sit here and provide these benefits when the state of Maryland is sitting on a big $1 billion budget, and the county is sitting on a $1 billion budget, and we're sitting on $6 million. And these services are already being provided to other students, but 6 students. And I still would like to know, why is there 6 students, and how did they identify these 6 students, and why these 6 students are not being insured by the state of Maryland, which is a major issue, should be a major issue, not only to me, but to the rest of the council members and to our delegates, our senator and delegates. Why are these students out of school right now with no health insurance because they can't get immunized? I mean, there's a problem here, and I'm not understanding why we're going to sit here and roll around with a piece of legislation when we need to be reaching out to our elected officials and saying, what's going on? These kids aren't immunized. This program's out there.
I will say, I will address the issue of these children. This is not a phenomenon that is unique to the city of Glenarden. This is a case with children all over the country that are not being able to access the right types of medical care that they need in order to be able to be in school. So this is not a unique situation. Also, I would challenge the notion that the city of Glenarden should only do things for our citizens if the county or the state is not. As we often hear, we are a municipality and sovereign unto ourselves about how we execute things and what we provide to our citizens. Our charter does give us authority over health situations in the city and being able to address those. So this is not out of the scope of our remit as council members. But again, everyone, will vote their conscience on this. Certainly, this is an issue that is one that is broader than the city of Glenarden, and that's exactly what this resolution is attempting to do, is address that fact by acknowledging as council members that this is a concern that want to take on. And if you look in the resolution, it does call on our local, state and federal leaders in government to help address this issue as well. So this is not intended to be an isolated endeavor that the city of Glenarden is doing by ourselves, but this is a declaration of the city's commitment to ensuring that there are no children who are not able to go to school because they are lacking immunization.
Councilwoman
Right.
Jones. I'll come back to you, Mr. Herring. Councilwoman Jones had her hand up.
It is now May 1st. School will be ending June, I guess the middle of June for Prince George's County. So these children have been out of school since September until now. And I thought in the state of Maryland, it was a law that you had to have your children in school. So why would they leave their children out of the state of Maryland doesn't allow children to be out of school. If you're of school age, you should be enrolled in school. So, and if they're aware of that, and the reason is because of immunization, then they should have presented something to do. So then, and not only that, that's a question for me, but how do we identify who's going to receive from this program and who won't? Yeah, I know you said it would be citizens from the city of Glenarden. Are we looking at people that can prove that they have no insurance, income levels, or how are we, what is the criteria for the city of Glenarden to take on a child that has not been immunized, that does not have immunization? Thank you.
So let me just answer that. So the city itself would not be validating the insurance. That actually happens with the medical professionals who would be administering it. So they would know who is insured and who's not insured, and then they would charge the city of Glenarden for those who are not insured.
Okay, so I'm sorry, go ahead. Ms.
I'm
Phillips.
sorry. Okay, and so my question about it, like I said, it is now May 1st. School will be ending in June, and you're saying that these children have been out of school since September or August when school started?
I didn't say that. I said there are 6 children who are currently not in school because they don't have their full vaccinations. Children get vaccinated throughout the year. It's, some are on a schedule depending on how old they are, when certain shots need to be had. So at this point, that is the case.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other comments from council?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilman Herring?
Okay, I'm gonna tell you, something's really strange here. Because I know for a fact that they don't even let you in school unless you get your immunizations. They don't put you out halfway through the year. And if they do put you out, they usually refer you to somewhere that you can get immunizations. And I have to agree with Councilwoman Jones. We're almost at the end of the year. And you said these kids are not in school. And it is a Maryland law that these kids the children have to be in school. And if they're not in school, then they call the parents in and they address it with the parents on why the children are not in school, and charge them actually if they're not. So it's just the whole situation sounds strange to me because, like I said again, I don't care what's happening in the rest of the country. I know Maryland has always trying to take care of their children, and with this the Maryland Children's Health Program, they've always tried to provide immunizations free or at reduced fees. So I'm not understanding how these 6 kids slip through the cracks and why the school haven't notified the county in the state that these children are not in school. Because again, that's a issue in and of itself when it comes down to the law in Maryland, but children being in school and missing a certain number of days. So again, I just think that this is a bigger issue. There's something going on. I don't know. Like I said, I've been in the school system. I myself got put out of school because I didn't have my immunizations, and I had to go when I was in elementary school and get my immunizations, and I got back in. And Maryland has always been very always work toward giving immunizations to children. But I look at your resolution, and it keeps on saying all children. It doesn't say Glenarden children, it says all children, will get this immunization and vaccinations and all of that. And we're going to get a bill for it?
No, it doesn't say that. Please, Council Clerk, can you bring up that section about
It says advocate for implementation of policies and programs.
1 second. 1 second, Councilman Herron. 1 second, Councilman Herron. Councilwoman Fareed was talking. I don't want you guys to get confused. So everyone can hear you. Councilwoman Fareed, you wanted me to bring up what section?
So I think Councilman Herring is referring to the piece about the clinic. And I think that, there's a distinction, and if we're concerned about the clinic piece, that is not the whole resolution. If you're speaking about all, yes, that is around the education, et cetera.
And Mr. Herron, what section were you referring to?
Item number 3, where it says collaborate with schools and other educational institutions to ensure that all children under 18 attending schools are up to date on their vaccinations regardless of their insurance status. And that's a whole lot of work. Again, there's something just ain't sounding right about these 6 students. And like I said, I've been dealing with these kids, and I've been dealing with Sylvania Woods Elementary School. I've been dealing with the school system in general in the state of Maryland. I've lived all my life, and I've seen what they've done and how they always tried to promote the health of our children in this community and in this state. A lot of states don't do that, but Maryland is very, very generous and liberal when it comes down to the welfare of the children. So I'm just still curious on how these 6 students skated through all this time without no notification or without no red flags going on up at the Board of Education. And I'd be curious to learn more about these 6 students and what the school system is actually doing, because if the school system didn't alert the school board about this situation, then that's a problem. That's a failure in the safety net with these children and their health, because they should have alerted the school board should have alerted the state. They should have got them services that they needed to keep these children healthy and get them immunization so that they can be educated. So if there's 6 students that's sitting out there that's not in school, then I have a problem with the principal actually at that school, because no child should be sitting at home not being vaccinated, and she's just sitting there and she's just letting us know about it, and she's just saying something about it. And here we are at the end of the school year. So I just think it's more research need to be done on what's available at the state level and what the services that can be provided. The Maryland Children's Health Insurance Program, look into that, see what the county is providing, see what the Prince George County School Board is providing, and make sure these kids are being immunized, and that they're not only immunizations, but full health insurance, because the health insurance that they offer from the state is a very nice insurance policy. So, I mean, that's just my feeling. Something just don't sound right with this whole 6 students thing. Doesn't sound right to me. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank Councilman Herron. Councilwoman Fareed, did you have something else to say?
Yes, I just wanted to say that, I hear what you're saying. I think so. Point though, it doesn't sound to me like your concern is with the vaccination clinic. Is that what concern is? Is your concern paying for the vaccinations of those who are uninsured that are residing in the city of Glenarden? Or
actually, I'm also concerned about the vaccination clinic too.
1 second, Councilwoman Fareed, are you finished? Yeah, I got you, Mr. Herron. Councilwoman Fareed, you're breaking up, but we can't hear you.
Yeah, I couldn't hear you.
Okay, what I heard Councilman Herron is Ms. Fareed said that the way she understands it is that you're not against the vaccination clinic, but your concern is more so with the uninsured individuals.
Actually, I have a problem with the vaccination clinic also. I feel we should leave the health situations to the health department. Let them deal with these vaccinations and handle these vaccination clinics. Now, if there's space to have something, fine, but for us to sponsor a vaccination clinic, I think that should actually be running through the state of Maryland and the Prince George County Health Department, to see what's entailed with doing that. Because even with COVID, there was certain restrictions on that. When they had the COVID clinic, they were talking about restrictions on who can do it, who can't do it, and all this other stuff. So we're talking about vaccines and bringing people in and all this other stuff, I still think that that's something that needs to be spearheaded by the Prince George County Health Department and the state of Maryland when it comes down to, especially with immunizations with children.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
So thank you. Thank you to all council members for a healthy debate. I'm sure if we work together, we can ask the right questions, come to the right answers, and I'm certain that the motive behind this resolution is pure, and we want to help our citizens. So whatever questions you have, let's work together to come to a resolution and answers so that we can move forward with providing any services that our constituents and our citizens need or want. Having said that, I don't see any more hands relating to this topic. Councilwoman Fareed, I'll give the last word to you if you have anything left, or any of the other sponsors.
Crutchfield hand is up.
Ms. Crutchfield, this is a work session. At the work session, it's an opportunity for the legislators to communicate without the interruption, not the interruptions, without just the 7 council members without the public's input. We reserve the public hearing and the regular meeting for our citizens to contribute to either legislations or voicing their concerns, but the work sessions are just for the council members. So thank you. Councilman Fareed, last word if you want it.
Yeah, I was just wanting to see if Council Vice President or Councilwoman Guillaume had anything to add as their co-sponsors for this.
Yes. Vice President Ferguson, Councilman Guillaume, any final comments? Okay.
Council President, sorry.
Yes, Councilman Guillaume.
Yeah, just don't want to continue on, but I do want to echo some certain things that were said, and I do appreciate the spirited conversation and points. And to just echo, I believe what you said, Council President, which was the spirit behind this, I think we all can agree is we just don't want any students to be left out of school, period. Now, of course, there were various points that were brought up by Councilman Herring, especially, and Councilwoman Jones also mentioned some stuff. Don't want to keep going down the path of how Councilwoman Fareed touched on a lot of the stuff. But I do believe also that even on the delegate side, that this conversation and this issue is also taking place. So it's not just isolated to Glenarden, but we were strictly looking at the Glenarden citizens for that issue. So again, a lot of conversation, a lot of points that were being made. I've taken some notes. Some of the things that you mentioned, Councilman Herring, I didn't necessarily know about. So thank you for sharing, and I'll look into that further. But just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Hearing no other comments, we'll move on to. I think that's it for legislation.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Jones. There's one more piece of legislation. Ms. Jones, I'm sorry, I do not have that on my screen. So if you want to share your screen, if you have it.
The council clerk has it. She can share it if you'd ask.
Okay. All right, Council Clerk, if you could pull that up, please. And Councilwoman Jones, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I am once again, we need to look at the goal room, and its rules and regulations. The rules and regulations that are in place for the goal room now are outdated. And talking with the Maryland State Liquor Board today, and talking to Prince George's County Liquor Board, and then talking to different venues, I am still gathering information. But we have had some events at City Hall that involve alcohol. And with alcohol, one thing that everybody agrees on from the people I talked to today is that when you are serving alcohol at any venue, you have to have a licensed bartender. They have to display their license. They also have to have been through the TIP program provided by the state of Maryland and the TAM program
Excuse me,
before
Council
they.
President, you may have to walk me through it. I had it. Were you able to see it? I don't think you were seeing what I pulled up.
No, we're not seeing it. So.
Okay.
No, I apologize, Councilwoman Jones. All right, Council Clerk, if you, the green share screen in the middle,
I have that.
and then you have to click on the screen that you're sharing and actually have to go back down to click share. I've messed up on that too,
Okay.
thinking that I've clicked it and it's showing, but it's not. You have to.
Okay, let me go back out. Pull this back up.
And again, I apologize for the interruption,
Yeah,
Councilwoman
I
Jones.
apologize, yes. All right, so it's on multiple share. I'm sorry, it's been a long time since I've done this. Just stop, come out of here.
Okay, so this resolution was presented when the rules and regulations were changed by the former Go Room coordinator, Ms. Robinson. The rules and regulations that she presented us was also done, the legal sufficiency was done by Kevin Kopinski. And I think that it's time before the city gets theirself into some kind of legal tangle with this alcohol business, and that we need to come up with rules and regulations. That was one of the things that the county and the state mentioned. You need to have rules and regulations in place for your venue. And that's why I'm bringing back this resolution to revise the rules and regulations and fee schedule for the Gold Room and for the community center at Woodmore. There was also an event in the nutrition center. Have we repurposed the nutrition center and not allowed the informed the council that it has been repurposed for a venue? There was an event there on Sunday. It was supposed to be from 12 to 4. The people didn't leave till 5:30. And it took away from the person that was supposed to be helping me in the Gold Room to have to go down and make sure that that was taken care of properly, to make sure that the trash was taken out, that it was cleaned, because the persons did have food and drink in the nutrition center. And they also used I'm not sure, Mr. Simpson, you can answer this question for me. The television was moved from the council chambers to the nutrition center. Who did that?
We moved the television from, I guess, okay, so the television was in the nutrition center and we moved it to the council chambers. So I don't know who moved it from the council chambers to the nutrition center.
Well, for the last couple of meetings, it's been in the council chambers. I was just wondering how it got back to the nutrition center, because I thought that the video persons that our video person had moved it and had everything set up so that it would be prepared every time we would have a meeting in the council chambers.
Yes, ma'am. No one from Public Works moved the TV back to that location.
Okay. So I guess I'm sorry, Council Clerk, somebody please give me the gentleman's name. Oh, Mr. Gray, I'm sorry. Is it Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Gray, then he'll probably have to look at it again and reset it to wherever he had it in order for it to properly work for our meetings. So, yeah. But I'm just saying that we need to step up our and move forward in the rules and regulations for the Gold Room, and come up with, like I said, with the alcohol issue, you cannot have someone there that's not there to be able to card people. If someone needs to be carded, the bartender has to be certified, has to have a license and certification for 2 programs in the state of Maryland, from what the state of Maryland is saying. Like I said, I'm still gathering information on this, but I think as a council, as a legislative body, we need to move forward and put some rules in place for the Gold Room. And then also, I'm also thinking that if we put these rules in place, that maybe we can contract Ms. Robinson back to train our people in how to deal with the venue, because everybody's got a different set of rules as to how to deal with the Gold Room, how to deal with the Woodmore Town Center, how to deal with the Nutrition Center, which the Nutrition Center, I don't think we've repurposed, to open up to the public. The only people that I thought that was using the Nutrition Center was AA and NA. But like I said, I don't know where folks are getting information to say that, yes, we can do that. Unless the city manager said it was okay to do these certain things, then I don't have any issue with it, because she's looked at it and decided that, okay, we can do this. But for just, everybody here, this one here, this one there, and when the administrative staff is taking contracts for the Gold Room, I don't think that the persons that are renting the Gold Room are not being told that they have to have a licensed bartender, or they may have to have a one-day liquor license from the liquor board in Prince George's County. So, and you have to apply for that 10 days before the event. There are certain functions that you are required to have a one-day liquor license. But the one thing, like I said, that was common to all of the persons that I've spoke to so far is that you have to have a licensed bartender. They have to display that license, and they have to have the certifications, also the additional certifications. If you don't want to hire a bartender, just a bartender, then what you can do is when you get your caterer, you can also, this is another option, your caterer, if he has a bartender on staff and he wants to take the liability for the bartender and the alcohol being served, then you can go through your caterer. So.
Okay. Thank you, Councilwoman Jones. So a couple things. Council Clerk, you're sharing your screen now. But it's the screen of just the gallery of the Zoom meeting. So if you want to stop sharing, that's fine too. I think we'll go back to the regular screen.
And the only other thing that we as a council need to decide is our legacy organizations that are already on the legislation. I believe that we should stick with the legacy organizations in the city. I had a discussion with Mr. Kopinski, and he says as long as it's not, if it's an organization like we've always done the Boys and Girls Club, we've always done the track team, we've always done the ladies at the VFW. Those are legacy organizations that have been in the city that have proven that we can help them by helping them to enhance their services by giving them an opportunity to do once a year fundraisers. The Glenarden track team also.
Thank you, Councilwoman Jones. I agree with you. I think that we need to finally set some solid rules and regulations for the Gold Room so that it can be easier to manage by Ms. Abada and the staff that we hire there. So I think what Ms. Simpson, Jessica Simpson, correct?
Robinson,
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What Ms. Robinson provided, at the very least, is a good starting point for us to look through and work together, see what she proposed, what will work well with the Gold Room, what will not work well, and to hash it out and finally have something solid that we could put our people who run the Gold Room in good position to be successful. So thank you. Councilwoman Jones, are there any other comments from council members?
Yeah, I do have one comment, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. If that woman comes back in the city, we're going to have problems. I'm just saying that straight up. Because ain't no way the world she's going to say what she said to me and think I'm going to sit silent by and let her get away with it. I ain't finished with it. She come back in, I'm going to finish where she started. I'm just saying that right now. And I don't want to hear nothing about, Anthony, Councilman Hearn, you're being mean. But she roll up in this city, I'm going to have a few choice words for her. I'm telling you, I ain't finished with her. She's going to sit there and write what she wrote and think I'm done with her? Nah, you can bring her back if you want to, but be prepared for what comes. That's all I got to say. I'm just putting it out there.
Well,
I'm sorry, Council President. point of order, but I'm just saying, I'm only suggesting that we bring her into contract her to come in and train the staff and whoever the potential goal room person, because she has an idea of what she put in this, the rules and regulations, to do a 1-day seminar, maybe a 2-day seminar, so that they can understand what it is that's how they need to address the goal room. I'm not asking to bring her in or hire her. I don't think she's even applied for the job, but I'm just suggesting that maybe we could contract her for that seminar to do that 1 or 2 day teaching to the staff that's doing the contracts for the goal room, maybe give an overview to the city manager and the staff that does the goal room on what it is or how to run a venue such as what we have. I think she has great idea as to how to do that with her experience and her knowledge and her background. I'm not asking the city to rehire her because I don't think she's even applied for a job, but just maybe to bring her in to do a seminar on how to run a venue. Thank you.
Mr.
Thank
President,
you.
Mayor,
Thank you. What's that? Thank you, Councilman Jones. Councilman Harry?
let me just say this. If her approach to doing contracts is the way that she treated me, she don't need to never come back up in this city because she was horrible. And I'm just saying that from the get-go. You know, so no, she don't need to come in here and train nobody, nothing. She had a bad attitude. She didn't know how to talk to people. And that's the last person we need up in here training somebody to do anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I, Councilman Harry? I think whatever is beneficial for a city, I think we can all agree that, we can come together and do what's best for the city. Certainly, I will leave that to Ms. Habata to think that to weigh in on what's best for us to do and bringing in a third party, whether it be Ms. Robinson or someone else, to help us get the goat room up and running. As we just, heard from our auditors, I think the city has been supporting the goat room for quite some time, and we have to get it to a place to where it's self-sufficient again, like it was in the past. So anything we can do to get it up and running again, that's smart, that's strategic. I'm all for it. So any other comments before we end the legislation portion of this work session? Councilwoman Jones, any final comment from you with this piece of legislation?
No, that's all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Now, with that is the final piece of legislation for tonight. 1 second, Councilwoman Fareed. Councilwoman Fareed?
Sorry. I did, because I think I hit that dead spot before and I got out of the meeting, and I don't know that that a point that I was making was heard. So I just wanted to go on the record here that those 6 families that are unvaccinated and not in school, the reasons could be different. One of those reasons being that they're uninsured. I just wanted to make sure that that's clear, that, the resolution is about bringing awareness to the need for vaccinations, because beyond having access to it through insurance, there's also, people just are wary rather of vaccination. So that's why this whole legislation is around educating and highlighting, as well as providing opportunity. So I don't know if that was caught before when I was being cut off.
No, we didn't hear that. So thank you for coming back to letting us know. Okay. Next up are the reports, the administrative reports. They were provided to you in your packets. Wanted to give this time, if you have gone through them, if you have any questions for either the mayor, city manager, now's the time to ask. That's designated for council members. Councilwoman Guillaume.
Thank you, Council President. My question is for the mayor. I just wanted to know, has there been any action or thoughts as to filling the committees that are still vacant, well, still not fully occupied, specifically the Ethics Committee, the Youth Committee, those at least come to mind. I know that months and months and months ago, there were names that were given, and then after that, it's just been idle. So I just wanted to know, has there been any action or activity or thought as to filling these committees so we can get the ball rolling?
Mayor Cross.
Yes, thank you for the question, Councilwoman Guillaume. Yes, there has been action and thought, but for the last committee meeting that we had relative to the ethics and how the person was dismissed for reasons other than their qualifications for the job, it has made it quite difficult for people who don't want to have any negativity thrown on their name. So we have asked hundreds of people across Glenarden, and they just don't want to represent because it's too hostile. So we have been advertising on the city website. We have been pushing information out on the streets. Aside from just that, I mean, no one's wanting to step up and do this. We have always stated in any report and at every quarterly newsletter that we are open and needing citizens to volunteer, because these are volunteer unpaid positions. And the timing is all set, of course, by the committee. We are actively still trying to look at opportunities to grow all of our committees, not just those two. And it has been quite a push.
Thank you for your response, Mayor. And I just wanted to be clear that I wasn't just speaking about those two in particular. I just happened to use them as examples. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Guillaume. I think I saw Councilwoman Jones. Did you have your hand up?
I did, but I'm going to wait and see how the subject is presented. So I'll just wait. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, any other comments as it relates to the administrative report before we move on to topics of discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to topics of discussion. Councilwoman Fareed, you have the first two topics. The first one is what you brought forth at the regular session, which is elect a mayor at large or 7 members select mayor. And we'll start with that one. Councilwoman Fareed, did you want to lead that topic?
Yeah, I was going to ask if you wanted to flip the order of the topics.
How so?
Sorry, with Councilman Herring's topics. With the topics that he has at the end. Yeah, I don't have great reception. I don't want to keep cutting out.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Councilman Herring, did you want to start with your two topics? We can start off with the ARPA funds.
And we're changing the order because of what?
Councilwoman Fareed has bad reception. I believe she's trying to get to a place where there's good reception, so that she can, yeah.
All right. Okay, I guess the ARPA funds, my only topic of discussion was, and this is for the treasurers, how much is left in the ARPA funds that's not committed? Is he on?
Yes, I am
yes,
on.
Mr.
Thanks,
Stewart.
Mr. Herring. The amount that is left in the ARPA fund, and as you say, not committed, is 701,000 is remaining.
701,000?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So everything else has been committed. Okay. Like I said, again, I really would like to see more Ward 3 streets done. You know, and I think we need to use those ARPA funds to look at doing them. I know y'all presented a budget, but I still think, you know, the funds are there, and if we can do something this year, then we need to do something this year. So, I mean, that's my only issue with that. I just wanted to know what the availability was and how much was not committed. And the expungement fair is really fairly quick. Everybody knows we have an expungement fair coming up on Saturday, May 6th. And any council members that are available, it'd be great because we're going to try this year again. What I tried to do last year is have a case search table, and basically what that is we're going to have council members at a table because a lot of people come up here without their charge papers, and just pull up, have people come up to them, pull up their name, information, print out their charge papers, so that way when they go into their attorneys, they have that available to give to them, and they don't have to waste time pulling it up. When they see their attorney, they can look at it and go through whatever they need to go through to move forward the expungement, and maybe we can, get more expungements done this year than we did last year. So I'm just, if you're available, and I don't know if we have enough laptops. If you have a laptop, bring it. That'd be good. But everything is on. I mean, we're still pulling everything together. I think we should be good. Like I say, if you're going to come, you're going to be a volunteer, you're going to be a staff. Silver Diners donating breakfast, so that's good. We have that again, and we also have lunch for y'all. So, and like I said again, we've already reached out to the state. The state said the system should be up and working, so we won't run into the situation that we had last year. So again, with the expungement fair, just like I say, just if you're available, council members, if you're available, hey, let me know so that we can make sure we have a place for you at a table so we can have that case search table set up. And that's it.
Well, Councilman, I just want to say thank you. And Mr. Hairston, last year was really, it was a huge turnout. And it's a great work that the attorneys come out and do for our community. So appreciate you guys spearheading this. And I do plan to be there, even if I have to step out for a family matter on that Saturday, but do look forward to this event. I saw Councilman Jones' hand first, and then Vice President Ferguson, I'll come to you. I think I saw your hand. All
Yes, thank you, Council President. I just wanted to mention with the ARPA funds, we are still, me and Councilwoman Ferguson are still working to have the council chambers renovated. So that additional $700,000 I would like to see go towards having that done. We need to have the council chambers renovated. We have a person that we've identified. Hopefully we can use his services. He did the council chambers for the county. So I've finally gotten his contact information again. He had done some work, tried to help the former city manager, Ms. Barber, and I found an email with his contact information to find out what was where was the communication breakdown. I have introduced him to our new city manager, Ms. Habita, and I think they want plans. So what I've been shooting for is to use CP Johnson to give us some. I wanted to call a meeting with them. I was kind of waiting for where Ms. Habita was. I gave her information, so I guess may I ask the question now? Ms. Habita, where are we from the last conversation that we had with Mr. Romano?
I've contacted CPJA and they have architects that they work with as sub-consultants, and they're supposed to be giving me names of some folks who are architects that we can talk to about the project. And I'm assuming that that would be something that would come in front of council in terms of approving, hiring an architect based on the estimated cost of the project in terms of what the architect's work might cost.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for that update. So that's where we are with trying to get the council chambers renovated. That would include also the nutrition center and those 2 bathrooms down there. And maybe if we can get permission from the state of Maryland to possibly move the fingerprinting machine over to another area, that little room where the fingerprinting is done can be renovated also. Thank you.
So, Council, President Ferguson.
Councilman Herring, I do plan on being there. Can you let us know what time you would prefer us being there? I know we discussed it on Saturday, just so that everyone would know.
Yeah, because it starts at 10, so I'm going to try to be there by at least by 8, 9. Breakfast supposed to be there by 8, so if you get there by 8, you can have breakfast. I hope to have everything set up at least by 9 o'clock. T-Spec should be there. So yeah, so if you get there between 8 and 9, that'd be good.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other questions for those topics of discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to the USDA Healthy Meals Incentive Grants for small school food authorities. That's due on May 26th. I know that went out via email, and Ms. Sabata is going to do a little bit more research. Ms. Sabata, could you, step in on, just what this program is and what are the requirements for us to move forward with it, please?
Yes, you've got a memo from me on this. The USDA is partnered with the Chef Ann Foundation. I've been following the Chef Ann Foundation for a number of years for other projects, and they do have funding to help schools convert over from processed food to cooking from scratch for students as a healthier option. What I've discovered is that this particular grant, the USDA Healthy Meals Incentives Grants for small schools, is not focused on individual schools within an urban district. It is limited to rural schools or small school districts with only 5,000 students. So we would not be eligible to apply. However, in researching the particulars on this grant and its connection to the USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture programs, I did discover a number of grants that are available for other projects that the city has looked at, including the farmers market. They have one for community food projects, and they also have the Patrick Leahy Farm to School Grant Program. And those notices go up for the notice of a funding opportunity goes up in October, and the closing date usually is the first week of January. And the awards are up to $100,000. So my recommendation is that, given the council's approval of a farmer's market to be owned and operated by the city, that we may want to submit, prepare and to submit an application for the community food projects in October and the farmers market promotion program next May. And the other piece, of course, is the Patrick Leahy notices are posted in October with the applications due the first week of January. So this can provide some information in terms of planning ahead for rolling out of various different projects, perhaps the community gardens and the farmers market. And in addition, the original interest in this USDA Healthy Meals grant led me to the Patrick Leahy Farm to School grant, which is also a different source. It's discretionary money that the Secretary of Agriculture has to award. That you might want to take a look at all three of these in terms of what the focus might be for each of them and how that might match what the city is taking a look at and has interest in. So I went down that rabbit hole of the Healthy Meals, USDA Healthy Meals Incentive Grants, and came out with 3 options for consideration.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Sabata. Are there any questions related to the program or the recommendations from Ms. Sabata?
No, thank you, Ms. Sabata. Thank you for doing the research. This is great. It sounds like a great opportunity for the city, particularly with the gardens and the farmers market. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay. Well, this is exciting. I'm all for it. And I thank you for the research as well that you did for it, Ms. Sabata. And I look forward to us serving our community in that way. The next one up is City Manager FY24 Budget Review Proposed Schedule. And the FY24 Proposed Budget, Council Review, Big Ticket Items. Ms. Sabata?
On the first page of the budget memo, the May 1 work session budget memo, there are a number of dates that are coming up, and I don't know what your practice has been in the past in terms of adding special sessions. You may want to do that depending on your particular interest in a particular part of the budget that's been proposed. We're recommending, of course, based on what's been in the paper, we put in the paper the information that needed to be advertised about the city budget that has been proposed. And there's the public hearing on the 9th is available for council to have folks address the proposed tax rates. Followed by an FY24 budget review session, if that's something that you would be interested in doing. I know that there are a number of items that will be up for public hearing. So it's the question of whether you do that on the 9th or you find another date. So what I'm suggesting is you take a look at these dates and any additional items that policy items that you want to take a look at, and we start plugging them in on these dates, with the idea of adopting the tax rate by before the May 25th deadline of submission of the tax rate to Prince George's County for their combined tax bill of city and county and state taxes. As noted in the memo, we are proposing going with a constant yield rate, which the constant yield rate means that the property tax rate would stay the same to produce the same amount of revenue as the previous year, thus no tax increase on city real property taxpayers. We are proposing an increase in the personal property tax rate on businesses. This would be on all local businesses that are subject to reporting annually to the state of Maryland for purposes of assessment. And the tax rate is proposed from 88 cents per $100 assessed value to $1.15 per $100 assessed value, and that would be projected to add $76,705 in new revenues, increased revenues. And as noted in the mayor's message, she had recommended we include this information, which I think is important to see. If you look at towns surrounding us, everybody's higher than the city of Glenarden. That doesn't mean you need to keep up with the Joneses on this, but even at $1.15, that is very reasonable as compared to the others who are much higher. So in terms of the property tax rates, really the only tax rate we're recommending that you include in your consideration for the May 25th deadline would be the increase in personal property tax rate to $1.15. The recommendation for council, of course, is to focus on major policy issues. As outlined in the mayor's budget message, there are several policy decisions that council needs to make, including setting the tax rates. There's the salary survey recommendations that was the council had commissioned a salary survey in 2022 by Municipal Solutions. The survey has been completed, and we'd like to have council set aside some time for a presentation from Municipal Solutions about the survey. The salaries in the proposed budget reflect the recommendations in the survey by Municipal Solutions, and their representative can go into that deeper in a meeting with the council in one of these dates or additional budget work session dates that you might decide to add to your calendar. There are 2 new positions that are recommended for FY24. That includes a code enforcement manager and a code enforcement inspector. I believe the manager is needed as the leader who can stand up a robust new business licensing, rental licensing, and vacant lot or vacant building registration process, and who can train the staff on the same. This will require making changes to the city code that will require, of course, council's consideration on your agenda at some point in the future. The need is there. It was pointed out to me this last week that there was a new bakery that opened up in Woodmore. And staff came to me and they looked at the form that they have been using and they said, well, there's no bakery listed here. What do we do? And the only option they had was to check the box other that had a minimum fee of $200. I'm not sure that's the best way to make decisions in terms of how the city looks at its business licensing program. So, the recommendation, of course, is then to tied into these new positions is to look at the city code and the changes that you might want to make. And then, of course, the big ticket items are in the ARPA funds drawdown and the capital budget primarily for capital equipment and infrastructure improvements. So in the end, I put leaving less than $1 million. We were basically down, as Mr. Stewart said, to 700,000. Now, I want to point out one uncomfortable thing that you may want to think about. That at this point, with recommendations of $3,661,574 for ARPA programs and a capital budget, leaving less than 700,000. Well, at 700,000. We've had some inquiries from state elected officials regarding allocation of ARPA funds for the police building. So there are some competing needs and competing interests here, and council may want to review the projects that are being proposed for possible changes. We're not necessarily recommending changes, but it is up to the council to make the ultimate decision on how funds are allocated, and so therefore we are not saying that these recommendations are the end-all point, the end point for what you ought to decide. They are the recommendations of that have come to you to parse through and figure out what you would like to invest in. And then council may want to review and respond to budget initiatives for 3 departments: city administration, public works, and the police department. And the narratives are attached to the memo that was put out, along with the budget details for the budget as a whole. And I would suggest that you have a discussion, start the discussion this evening on what your priorities are. We have recommended several policy priorities in the memo. Obviously setting the tax rate, the raising of the personal property tax, taking a look at salary increases based on the salary survey that was commissioned by the council in 2022. Municipal Solutions representative is ready to come and make the presentation. And then, of course, looking at the big ticket items on ARPA funds. Any questions and comments about how you would like to proceed through review of the FY24 budget?
Thank you, Ms. Sabata. Are there any questions on the dates that were outlined? I know likely we will have a separate session. Tends to take up a lot of time, so we'll have a separate session designated just for the budget process. But I see Mr. Herring has muted himself. Mr. Herring, did you have any questions or comments?
Yes, question. Who sent out, well, one, I was looking for the mayor's budget message. Is it with the budget? The mayor's budget message?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
it was sent out to the council, yes.
Okay, I have my budget. I don't see the message attached. So, okay, I just was wondering about that. So who mailed out the advertisement on his budget?
I'm sorry, say again?
Who mailed out the advertisement? Did the council mail it out or did you mail it out? Who mailed out the advertisement for the budget?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the council clerk mailed out the advertisement.
And we picked that day? For
I'm
the
sorry?
hearing, for the public hearing, June 13th was picked as the day for the public hearing?
It's May 9th.
May 9th.
Yes, next week, citizens will be able to come out and let the voices be heard on the budget. It would have been 2 weeks advertised in the newspaper, which is, I believe, according to the charter. And at that hearing, people can, make their suggestions or speak on the proposed budget. So that'll be next week. So that'll give the council to have opportunity to review the budget, hear citizens' comments on the budget, and give us everything we need to do any review and input before it goes, I think, back to one final, hearing before we hopefully can adopt it by June 19th.
And so the hearing, the notice went out about the concierge tax rate. That's gone.
Correct. So in the advertisement was the proposed budget by the mayor, where citizens could retrieve the budget if they wanted to, the proposed tax rate, along with the general summary of the budget as required by the charter.
So all of that was in one advertisement?
Yes.
The concierge tax rate advertisement was in with the budget?
No, sir. We are not exceeding the constant yield, and the only reason you need to have a hearing on the constant yield if you're planning to exceed it. And so there's no requirement to have a hearing on the constant yield since we're not exceeding that number. We're proposing it at constant yield.
That's what I was going to say. You're proposing it, but there's nothing to say that we can't exceed it.
True.
So if we wanted to, we would not be able to because it's not being advertised in the right format. Correct?
Correct. You're correct.
So you're eliminating the option that we may have to, if we wanted to take it up, that option is being eliminated by not advertising it in the way that the state requires. So I feel it needs to be advertised in the way the state requires, and then the council can make the decision how they want to move, whether they want to take it up or whether they want to stay with the rate that they have now. But I think that should be an option left to the council, not to the administration, to basically pigeonhole us into forcing us to accept a rate that we may not want. I don't know what the council is going to do. I'm just saying the option should be there. And I think it should, the format should be followed because citizens may want something. The citizens have an option to speak up on it.
Ms. Herring, I will say that, and I could, my memory could be fuzzy, but I did ask the question of the council about the constant yield rate, and there were no objections to what was proposed in the budget, which is why there was not, because I remember we did this last year because we were proposing to increase it, but since there was no pushback from the council with what was proposed by the administration, then the advertisement wasn't done. Now, certainly the council does have a right to, if they want to increase it, I would suggest that if we want that, we discuss that right now and go ahead and advertise it for the 2 weeks that is required, so that if indeed the 4 of the 7 of us want to increase it, that we do that in time before the May 25th deadline. Are you proposing that we increase it?
I'm proposing that there be some discussion on it because we haven't even looked at the budget. We don't know where it's going to go. We don't know how much. I mean, we just got the budget. They're pulling money from reserves or wherever else they're pulling it from. I mean, it may be a discussion that need to be had, but you don't shut that option down, and whether you asked for it or not does not negate the fact that this is a council and it should have been brought to the council and advertised as it normally has been for the last, 40 years or whatever. But just to arbitrarily say, okay, I asked you and you didn't say anything. So, you don't know if people are thinking about it or not. I think it should have been advertised like it's always been advertised. And then the decision can be made by the council the day of, after they hear from the citizens, because that's the whole point of it, is to hear from the citizens and let them see what we're doing and move forward that way. This not sharing information is really starting to get on my nerve, because things are just being done and I'm not sure what's going on. I don't even remember that conversation, So that's what I'm saying. Things need to be done in order. Everybody's talking about doing things in decency and order, but then things are done out of order. And then people are supposed to know what's going on. And if I don't know what's going on, I know the citizens don't know what's going on. They may want to have a comment on taking it up or taking it down. That's the whole premise of this. And to do that and pigeonhole the council, and just say, oh, okay, I've asked and you didn't say anything, so I'm going to go ahead and tell them to not advertise it. I don't think it's right.
No, and I hear you, Mr. Herring. That certainly was not the intent. It was a proposed budget by the administration. Without objections, we advertised the budget. Certainly, we can hear citizens' comments next week, and like you said, council may want to, but by no means was information, at least on my end, not forthcoming, because I received the information at the same time the other council members received it. So there was nothing held back. So, but you certainly have a right to your opinion. If other council members feel the same, this is the floor for discussion to increase the rate, or just even just have a discussion on whether one increases, or you guys agree that it should stay where it is. So, Councilwoman Jones, I see your hand.
So thank you, sir. Increasing the rate would make my property taxes go up. And we saw last year when that was proposed, how many citizens came out and were voicing against raising their property taxes because of the inflationary levels that we are now living under. So correct me if I'm wrong. If we take it up, it's going to increase my taxes. It will increase my personal property tax.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Council President.
Council Vice President Ferguson. Sorry, I thought I saw your hand. No? Okay. Any other council members? I do like the Ms. Abada, you can correct if I'm wrong. There was a balancing act by not putting an increase to our citizens, but putting an increase to business taxes to $1.15. That way, our citizens aren't feeling an increase, but we are getting our fair share of the business tax. Is that correct?
True.
Are there any other council members who wants to weigh in on this, on whether they think we should increase the property tax and advertise it?
Mr. President, I really don't like the way you ask these questions. You're asking, does any other council member want to increase property taxes and advertise? No, nobody's going to say they want to increase the property taxes, but I still think it should be brought to the citizens, and it should be a discussion for the citizens to decide also, as well as council members, after thoroughly looking at this budget. I know for a fact that we had a trash contract that went up $400,000. You know, so even at personal property taxes that you just increased ain't covering that. So I'm just saying, you know, I mean, there's things that need to be looked at. There's things that need to be addressed. I mean, to do this way is, I've never seen it done this way, where we don't go through the budget at all and we just say, this is what we're going to do and let's move on because I want to get it done, because here we go again. I'm tired. Here we go again with that. I'm tired. I don't want to wait. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. You know, because I've never seen it done like this. I mean, I think we need to be looking at every inch of this budget, deciding if it's in the best interest to leave the rate the same, or if we should take it up. You see this money in this bank, but you got to realize this money is not going to be a constant amount of money that's going to come in all the time. You're spending it down. These salaries in here are astronomical. I would never support half the salaries in this budget, because I don't know, then, you know, I mean, it's just stuff that needs to be looked at. But it just seems like this has already been discussed and everything is already etched in stone to me, without any input from the citizens or anyone else for that matter, I guess. But that's where the city want to do business, more power to them.
Well, Councilman Herring, I don't want to leave that, you know, wrong impression on our citizens. One, I haven't discussed anything with the mayor or Ms. Habata. The mayor and the administration created the budget. They presented it. I have no authority or power to decide as council president whether we go with one rate or the other. I apologize that you don't like the way that I asked the question, but there's no malicious intent behind how I asked the question. Every council member here has equal authority. Certainly, if you would like to advertise another rate, you can make a motion to advertise another rate. There will be seconded, 4 people will agree, and we'll move on. I have no problem with that whatsoever. As it relates to the trash contract, the only time I had a conversation with Ms. Habata about the trash contract is when she was on her second day here in the administration, and she said that we were paying too much for our trash and that she can lower it by almost, well, I don't want to make any promises, Ms. Habata, but we were paying over $300,000 too much money for the trash contract, and that if we properly bid it out, that we could lower that amount. To be honest, I haven't gone through every aspect of the budget in detail. I know that it's a balanced budget. There's some lines that I may have missed, but like I said, there's no other information that I have that you don't have. But certainly, if you would like it advertised again, please make the motion. There'll be a second, then 4 will say yes, and then we'll move forward with it.
No, I'm not making a motion for anything. That's what the state requires you to do to advertise it. You know, the consumer tax rate, 1, so you can be transparent to the citizens. 2, so the citizens can come out to a special hearing to have a say on it, whether they want it up or down. Some may want it up, some may want it down. Again, I don't mind paying additional property taxes. It's $30 extra on my tax bill. I got 2 houses I got to pay taxes for, so I ain't worried about it if it's going to benefit the city and the citizens in Glenarden. So I'm not running around here counting my pennies because my tax rate going to go up. Hey, if it's going to help the city out, more power to it. I don't mind giving up $30. I don't mind giving up $40 or $50. You know, other people do. You know, it's a big Mac. It's McDonald's for a week. You know, so. But I'm just saying again that, and as for the trash contract, when we originally did the trash contract, I said that from the get-go, going from $300,000 to $700,000. That's crazy. You know, I mean, all council members voted on it, so we all knew what it was going to. But I'm just saying that, again, I haven't seen a bid put out. I haven't seen anything put out where we're going to get it lowered. You're assuming it's going to come in lower. You don't know. They see you be paying $700,000. They may come in with the same bid or maybe $100,000 lower. Who knows? But again, I'm saying again that it's still, I don't feel it's transparent. I don't feel that we're giving the citizens an opportunity to see what we're actually doing. We're throwing stuff out there. The state says what you have to do, and whether it's discussion on it or not, just saying things in passing, I don't feel we should do business like that. I don't think we should, just because a council don't want to do that, or a council didn't say anything, or council didn't object to it, we shouldn't do business like that. But you know, that's me. I like following the rules. Some people like to do other things other ways. I prefer to be transparent with when it comes to the citizens' tax dollars. Hey, you know, I just want to do things other ways. So,
Thank you.
That's my point. So, all right, I'm done.
Thank you.
This is going on 9 o'clock.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you,
thanks.
Thank you, Councilman Herring. And by no means am I tired, and I actually don't mind paying more. So I'm actually in agreement with me paying more. But I defer to what citizens want. So are there any other comments? Any other council comments on the constant yield? And just so that we can get through this, so there's no reason to think that I'm moving on this by my own. I just want to take consensus on whether we advertise a higher constant yield, yes or no. And if the answer is yes, we'll do it. If it's no, then we won't advertise it, as the state does not require us to advertise a constant yield rate that's not going to change. So the consensus is whether we advertise a higher rate, yes or no. Councilwoman Jones?
Like I indicated earlier, last year when we were going to do a higher rate, a lot of citizens came out to the meeting and they were opposed to it. And I'm sure that it'll be the same way. So my answer is no.
Councilwoman Guillaume?
For the same reason that Councilwoman Jones stated, I will, however, vote yes, just so we can have a matter of record for the citizens to actually express what they would want or not.
So yes, to advertise a higher constant
Correct.
yield rate?
Advertise it, and we'll then decide what we're going to do.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, but I think the advertiser will say that your constant yield rate is going up too.
Right. And if they, let's say, after hearing from the public,
Okay, I see what you're saying.
they say blah, 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 then we as a council have to vote, then we can know how to vote.
Okay.
Hope that makes sense.
No, I get you. It makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Who's on this? Councilman Hairston?
Run it back past me.
We're doing a consensus on whether we want to advertise a higher constant yield rate in the paper. The administration is proposing that we stick with the same rate from last year, which will not increase property taxes. The consensus is whether we want to advertise a higher rate in the paper.
President Curtis?
I do not know who's talking. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, city manager.
Okay. One second. Let me hear from
Sure.
Councilman Hairston, then I'll come to you. Councilman Hairston?
I'm gonna pass.
Okay, pass. Ms. Sabata?
The constant yield rate that would need to be advertised in accordance with state law would need to be a specific rate that would go into the constant yield rate ad. The only concern I have is who's picking that rate. Meaning, we have proposed not to exceed it, and we would need to plug in an actual tax rate that would exceed it. Is there is there instructions from council on what you want that to be? We just can't say we're proposing possibly a higher constant yield, going above the constant yield rate. We have to actually, in the advertisement, put an actual number in there. So if it's now 0.3273, if you wanted to go to 0.34 or 0.33 or 0.40 or whatever, we in order to do the ad, we would need to plug in a figure. No objection to doing that, but I'm not sure that staff wants to be the folks who select that number.
100% agree. And maybe we put in the cart before the horse. I wasn't sure where council wanted to go with this, so I wanted to get a consensus on whether we wanted to increase it and then talk about what we will increase it to.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So there's a no from Councilwoman Jones, a yes from Councilwoman Guillaume. A pass from Councilman Hairston. Councilwoman Fareed.
Sorry, could you put me as yes? My bad.
Yeah, yes, okay. Councilwoman Fareed.
So I think we talked about this last year as well. It feels like we're working backwards. Like we should be reviewing this budget and like figuring out what the final budget is going to be so that we can then determine what we need. So then we can determine what our tax rate should be. So I'm going to say yes to the higher rate just because I'd rather pull back than advertise and say we're not going to do anything and then find out we have to increase once we review the budget. But I would like for us to look at this next year, the timing around when we're doing this. It would seem that we should have reviewed the budget by the time we need to submit the tax rate.
Thank you, Councilwoman Fareed. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, Councilman Harris, sorry. I think I know your answer. Councilman Harris?
Let me think on this. Yeah.
Vice President Ferguson.
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay. Oh, we have the yeses, so it's fine. I'll abstain as well. And so now that we are going to advertise the budget, now we have to pick a rate. I agree with Councilwoman Fareed. One, I think that Mr. Stewart did a good job of having better planning this year with the dates that he proposed. Or just putting a process in place, which was better than last year. I'm still a proponent of making this a little bit earlier, but according to the charter, that the charter says April 15th. So April 15th it's the day that it has to be presented by the mayor. So the floor is open for an actual rate.
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilman Herring?
Yes, when we get our notification from the state, they usually give us the rate. They give us two rates. They give us a constant yield and they give us a higher rate if we want to avail ourselves of the increased assessments. And I'm going to ask Mr. Stewart if he has that rate.
Mr. Stewart, do you have that rate?
If I may interject, the rate that would be listed on the constant yield notice from the state would be last year's tax rate, which would need to be lowered in order to keep the same amount of taxes coming in for the next year. So what was the tax rate last year, Mr. Stewart?
Give me a second because I had that information here. I think it was 0.3 48. No, it was 0.3888. 0.3888.
So it's 6 cents higher
Yes.
than the constant yield.
Are you sure about that, Mr. Stewart?
Let me go through.
That seems high.
Council President, it was 0.3481.
Okay,
Yeah,
so I have it here now. So what I have here is 0.3338.
0.3338. That's what I thought.
Yes.
0.3338. 0.3481 was what it was before. And then citizens did not want it to stay at 0.3481, and we decided, and we voted on 0.3338. Okay.
So that's the rate that need to be advertised.
And what's the rate to keep it the same? The one that's being proposed in the budget?
So the rate for constant yield would be 0.3273.
Okay. All right. So with any objections to the 3338? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Stewart and Council Clerk, could you please work together to advertise the constant yield rate of 3.338, please?
Well done.
All right. Thank you. All right, are we all good on this subject? Okay. Oh, I'm still sharing. Moving on to the final two topics of discussion.
Excuse me, Council President, if I may.
Yes.
What date are you projecting? Should I put it out for 2 weeks? It would go in the newspaper. I would have to have it to them on Monday by noon, and it would advertise for the next 2 weeks for it to be 2 weeks prior. Is that agreeable with council?
Well, you need to follow the guidelines from the state.
Right. Actually, Councilman Herring, they have relaxed, you have to use a certain font and all of that. They're not
Yeah,
requiring that anymore, but I will check with MML. But I'm just asking, if it has to be 2 weeks prior, are you good with me doing 2 weeks out from that date for the hearing?
I think that's fine. Because it won't make it by this Monday.
No.
But we still have time to have another public meeting, particularly for that rate. So whenever we could post, that, I think, what was the deadline, Thursday, to post it, to get something in for Monday?
I'm sorry, by noon on Monday,
Okay,
the newspaper, yes. That's their deadline.
at noon on Monday. To have something for the next week?
For the next 2 weeks, yes.
The next 2 weeks. Okay, we could do that. And so let me just look at my calendar. So if we get it to them on the 8th, that means that they would advertise it for the week of the 15th and the week of the 22nd, correct?
That's correct.
And then we can have a public hearing for it on the, well, nope, that puts it in May. Is there any way we can get it in for this Monday?
That's today.
We've already missed that deadline. I can try my best, but I can try first thing in the morning, but they got some pretty hard deadlines.
Okay, well, can we just try tomorrow, please?
I will try.
All right. Thank you. In that interest, Mr. Stewart, if you could communicate with the department that we're working on this. I think the issue that we had last time is that because they didn't hear anything, they went ahead and printed the previous rate. But I think if we just communicate and let them know, that can give us some wiggle room, as at least that was my impression last year. So we could just communicate with them what we're doing so that we don't have the same mishap of letters going out.
Yes. Yes. So what I'll do is give them a call and I'll speak with them to see how much leeway we could get after the 26th. If they say we cannot, then the deadline will have to be on the 25th.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
All right. If you could make the council aware of what you find out, that'll be great.
Definitely.
Okay. Thank you. Councilwoman Fareed, are you available?
Yes.
All right, you're up. You have the two topics of discussion, electing the mayor at large, or 7 members select a mayor, and the resolution types for voting.
Yeah, so from a charter resolution perspective, we need to resolve the question on whether or how the mayor will be elected. There are two options that we've landed on, one being that the mayor is selected at large, just like the mayor is now. And then 6 council members will be voted for separately. So again, that's the mayor being voted for by the citizens at large, and then 6 council members being voted for separately. And we can figure out how the 6 council members are broken up, if it's all at large, or if it's 2 per ward, or if it's 1 per ward and 3 at large. But that's not the question right now. The question is, how should the mayor be elected? So option 1 is the mayor being elected at large and 6 council members being elected separately. Option 2 is all of the council members all 7 being elected as council members. And then amongst the council members, the 7 council members, 1 will be selected as the mayor by the council members, similar to how the council president is done now.
Okay. The floor is open for discussion, council members, and want to weigh in on this? Yeah, Ms. Guillaume, Councilwoman Guillaume.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Councilwoman Fareed. Just based on the public's, I don't want to say outcry, but some of what the public has stated, I do feel strongly that the mayor's post should be elected. So out of the options that you gave, I think that they should have their own, the mayor's race should be separate. And the other remaining folks, the council will be running for council and the mayor will be running for mayor. That's it.
Any other council members?
Yeah, Council President, I just wanted to say I agree with Kat. I was going to say the same thing.
Okay.
And can I clear that up? When she say that they'll run separate, like it'll be the council members separate, is Councilwoman Fareed, is that basically what you're saying in a nutshell, or no?
You're on mute, Councilwoman Fareed.
Oh, sorry, say that again. I couldn't hear you.
I'm saying in option 1, is that basically what you're saying? Is that the mayor run and she'll be voted for separately? That's what that is in option 1, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to be straight. Okay.
Okay, Councilwoman Jones.
I also agree with Councilwoman Guillaume as far as and Councilwoman Fareed. Well, Councilwoman Fareed, I believe that the mayor should be elected from the people at this time. Maybe later on when things, but right now, as what she stated, the outcry about wanting to be able to elect the mayor separately from the people. Thank you.
Any other council members want to weigh in on this?
So another question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
But this was only this is strictly only about the voting process, correct? This wasn't about the responsibility process. This is just about voting that we talking about in option 1 and option 2, or is it changing also the responsibility?
No, just the voting, how we would select the mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So we just wanted to bring it forward because in previous discussions, we know that other option had been presented of potentially selecting from amongst the council. I personally agree that we should keep it as it is now, where the mayor is elected apart from the council members and elected at large, so that the citizens have a say in who the mayor is. But I don't know how many people have spoken. 4 of us have spoken so far. We still got 3 other council members.
Councilwoman Ferguson.
I don't know why I can't find my hand, but I agree with Mayor electing the mayor separate from the council, not within the council. So I guess it would be option 1.
Okay. Mr. Herring, do you have any comments? Councilman Herring?
I'm fine with whatever the majority want to do.
Okay. To me, it's potato. the citizens are going to be voting. So, yeah, I think the the genesis behind this is because of the contentious relationship historically between the mayor's office and the council office, particularly as it relates to mayors getting into the office and thinking that they have a certain authority and they really don't, and really bringing the mayor's role into the fold to be able to be a part of the governing body, because as it stands now, the mayor's seat is not. I'm fine with that. I will say that I am a little bit wary of still that I think unfortunately it's been a history of like a power struggle, and I know that's what we're trying to resolve. And I'm hopeful that this can be it. I do think that there's some things that are seen within the governing body that's not seen by the public eye, and in that instance, I would probably entrust who the people entrusted as the elected officials to choose who should, I guess, sit in that mayor seat on a year-to-year basis, because that gives some flexibility with the balance of power. But like I said, it's potato for me. Everybody's being elected. It's just that, now 6 council members are going to be elected and the mayor is going to be elected, as opposed to just 7 council members being elected and then the 7 council members choosing. So I think I'm fine with that. But I just, for the flexibility part, I think that the other option is probably gives more flexibility. I saw it in Councilwoman Guillaume's hand, and then I'll come to you, Ms. Fareed, Councilwoman Fareed.
Thank you, Council President. I also wanted to just add another point, which was, I'm sorry, is there an echo? Do you guys hear an echo, or can you hear me clearly? Okay,
No,
thank
we
you.
can hear you clearly.
Okay, thank you. I think the other point also is when you think about the mayor's role, even though it hasn't been defined as yet, and the council role, they're still very different. And even in this context right now, right, as it currently exists, there are certain things that as council members, as a person, you want to run for council to do, knowing that you won't have to do it if you are a mayor, or if you run for mayor, there are certain things that you know that you will have to do that if you run for council, you won't be able to do, or vice versa. So I think that's the thing where I would personally hate, I'll be happy, but personally, I'd probably hate if I ran for an office and let's say for council, and I'm like, well, I want to be council. Next, everybody was like, okay, now you're going to be mayor because you received the most votes out of this whole, all 6 folks that ran. And I'm like, wow, I'm humbled, but I really wish I could have just been the council member, not the mayor. So just wanted to add that context to it as well then.
Thank you. That's a really good point. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilwoman Fareed.
And I just also want to clarify that the second option was not for the mayor to be elected every year. It would just be one time. So whoever was elected as the mayor would be the mayor for all 4 years. We wouldn't have 4 different mayors potentially over the course of an administration. And the discussion points, just to bring them out, was that the council specific roles have ward representatives. So the thinking was that, with a mayor, you want that person to be someone who's elected at large as opposed to someone who was elected within a ward, so that they have, more of the backing of all of the citizens. And another point was around, it was around what Councilwoman Guillaume said about being elected based off of like number of votes. I know that had been floated out one time, but that wasn't going to be the determinant. It would have been simply the 7 people voting, nominating and voting, a person. It wouldn't be based off of who got the most votes. Although some municipalities do it like
Council President, may I?
1 second. I saw Mr. Herring unmute himself, so I want to go to him first and then to you. Councilman Herring, did you have something to say?
No, I was just going to echo what Councilwoman Fareed said, that, it didn't, when we voted amongst ourselves, it didn't depend on the number of votes. It was just a discussion amongst the council members who we thought would be the best person to serve in that position. So that's all.
Thank you, Councilman Herring. Councilwoman Guillaume?
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Herring, and thank you, Councilwoman Fareed. And I think for me, it was more voting. So it was twofold. It was vote, like whether it was number of votes by the citizens or whether it was number of vote by the council, by the elected body, right? So it's like, you want to be humble, but it's like, I don't know if I want to do that. And what do we do then? Do we then do it the way we usually do it for council president, where we just keep going around and around? So again, not sure, but thank you for that point of clarification.
Okay. So like I said, I'm agreeing with it. I would just ask the Charter Review Committee and the council as we set this up to really put some thought into make sure we have robust rules and processes. I know we have a parliamentarian now, but making sure that everything is lined up in the council rules so that if there is a disagreement, then the majority rules. So I just want to be an absolute, power in that head seat, that there will be balance. And I know that it is balanced now, but just want to make sure that as we frequently have, interpretation battles with the charter now, that we just make sure that our rules are up to date, robust, and clear. And I know that we're heading that way, but I'm just putting that out there. So, all right. So it looks like we have where we're going, that the mayor is going to be elected. So there will be 6 elected council members. Well, the proposal, still proposal, is to be 6 elected council members and an elected mayor to form a 7-member governing body for the city of Glenarden. So you guys have what you need to continue going as a charter review committee.
The next point was actually what you just raised about the council rule. And actually in our discussion, our attorney advised us that the council rules are actually not part of the charter review committee process because it's not part of the charter. So our council rules are something that's separate. So the next topic about how we would want to, or if we would want to have a more expedited process for administrative type resolutions versus those that are maybe, more policy based, let's say, that would be just a matter of us discussing amongst council rules. It wouldn't be a function of the charter review committee. It came up as we were reviewing the charter, but it's also come up in other conversations that we've had. So the proposal is to have our different resolutions classified and handled differently. So I'm proposing 2 buckets: administrative, and those would be things like any of our resolutions that say at the request of the administration, things that the administration needs to do to kind of keep going and getting work done in the city, and things like appointments, termination, any of those things that we need to do. It's still done by resolution, but the proposal would be that those would be done in a more expedited manner, similar to how we just did the asphalt, where it would be brought forth. Citizens could provide comments when it's brought forth, and then we could take action on it. Of course, that would be at the discretion of the council. So if the council felt that there was one, particular item that warranted more discussion, more investigation, that could be done, as opposed to, policy type resolution, such as the farmers market, for example. That's something that will require us, working through and deliberating on. And I just, took a look at our resolutions for the last couple of years to see how that breakdown would be. And in 2023, so far, 15 resolutions have been of that administrative nature. and 6 have been of the more policy type nature. And so by having those 15 go through, again, it's not hiding anything from anyone. It would still be documented. There would still be a paper trail, but it's more so allowing the process to be more fluid for the administration so that we're not having, to call special meetings or have emergency meetings, or they're potentially losing out on good prices because we're waiting to go through the full longer process. It would just be a more expedited. So that would be my recommendation, and that would allow us as a council then to focus our efforts and attention and work session time really on more of these deliberative type resolutions that require more research, questioning, working through.
I do have a question as it relates to that. And I know we talked about the different ways that appropriations resolutions are passed. So whether it be a form of resolution or idea that the council agrees with and we move forward. So are you still saying that we need like a paper resolution that that will just get passed easier to help operations flow seamlessly? So we'll still have that.
Yeah, and that's, for me, that's a compromise. If it was completely up to me, we wouldn't do that. We would just raise them as motions and we would, go on.
Yeah.
But in hearing kind of, the comments from council previously, as well as comments from citizens, having that documentation is important. So we would still have that, and we would still have the opportunity for citizens to comment. It would just be in a more fluid, expedited way, just like the asphalt thing was done. It was introduced, citizens were able to give comments, and it was passed within a week. So, and that helps the administration be able to kind of keep moving.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from council? Are you looking for what we had for the last one, 4 yeses? Or are you just?
Well, I mean, if y'all don't want to discuss it and you just want to go to taking a consensus, then that, that would be part of our council rules though. So that would be something that we would move forward with putting in the council rules if we agreed. And I can, structure it more, but I just wanted to have the conversation here around what are even the thoughts around that, are separating it into those types 2 categories. Does that make sense? What are thoughts? And then I can put, some proposals together, a more formal proposal for us to actually vote on in our council rules.
Councilwoman Guillaume? I'll
Thank
come
you,
to you
Council
next, Councilman
President.
Herring. I saw you. I'm going to Councilwoman Guillaume first and then you, Mr. Herring.
Sure.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to, just restating what I'm hearing. So there would still be a resolution. The public will still have an opportunity. When I say resolution, there'll still be documentation, presented to the public. Let me say that way. And the public will still have an opportunity to express their opinions on should we do this or not. And we're speaking about some of the more administrative type of actions. Now, for me, if that can be done and worded in a way where it showcased how we were able to do what we recently did with, I believe you mentioned it, the asphalt, where Councilwoman Jones, Councilman Herring, and I believe it was Ms. Habada felt like, okay, we need to get this done. We've been talking about it for a while. Let's get this done. And it was done at a more quicker, expeditious rates, and citizens still had an opportunity to speak about it. Yes, I am a proponent of that. I am supportive of that. Very clearly, I'm a supportive of that, the way that was done. Now, if it's a deviation of in another direction that we haven't explored yet, I need to be clear about that. But if we're talking about the way it was recently done, then yes, I am in support of that. Thank you.
And yes, that's the example, the perfect example of that. Right now, what we're doing is we're bringing resolutions to a work session, then we're bringing it to a public hearing, then we're bringing it to a work session. So it could potentially be about 3 weeks before something gets passed. what we did last time was the resolution was brought at the public hearing. And technically for our charter, a resolution can be brought at any public meeting. So it was brought at the public hearing, the citizens had an opportunity to speak on it, and we voted on it in, the next week. So we still had the elements, it was just, expedited. And again, these would be things that typically, or the typical citizen wouldn't really have a comment on it. Now, if you were, previously involved in the city government in some way, you might have a comment on it because you have some context and some history, but the typical citizen wouldn't really, have a comment on, I don't know, an
Right.
appointment to the youth council or something.
So I hear what you're saying, but it's just very important for me. I'm sure for others, but I'm speaking for myself. I'm just very important for me that the public, the citizens still have an opportunity to say something,
Yeah.
with regards to it. So whether they were already previously elected officials or not, just as long as the opportunity is there. So thank you.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry I'm speaking loud. I'm hearing an echo on my end, so apologies if I'm screaming.
Mhm.
Councilwoman Guillaume, no echoes. Councilman Herring?
Yeah, and I just want to echo what Councilwoman Guillaume said. That's my biggest thing, is that the citizens still have the transparency that we have now, that they can see what's what. They can be able to express and comment on what they feel they may have an issue with when it comes to their government and their tax dollars. I'm not about, I was on the council before where they would bring resolutions the day of a meeting and they would vote on them that night. Nobody knew what it was. Council members, it was kept from other council members, and it was just a bunch of backroom dealing and stuff. And I'm not trying to go back down there. The citizens then expressed loudly that they wanted to see everything that was coming before this council for a vote. And they wanted to know what their money was doing and what this council was doing. So I'm all about transparency. So if it's going to even deviate from that, I wouldn't support anything like that. So I just want to say that, transparency is important for me. So, all right, thanks.
Thank you, Councilman Herring. Any other comments? I'm for Councilwoman Fareed, so I think it's like Councilwoman Guillaume says, the elements are still there, gives us the opportunity to expedite the process. So,
Right. And it also, I'm sorry, it also it helps us expedite the process, and it helps the administration, get things done more quickly, and it helps us to then be able to focus our efforts on, more of the legislation, because if, again, the breakdown in 2023, it was 15 administrative, 6 non. In 2022, it was 34 administrative and 12 non-administrative. So it's kind of a lot of time and effort on those things, versus kind of more of our policy-based legislation.
okay. And at any time, if council members wanted to go through the regular process, they can make a motion to go to the full process.
Yeah, you just would table it, right? Like that's what we typically do when we want more time for something, is just table it until you get more information. So it's not intended, to not have transparency. I don't think any of us on this council, have that spirit. So.
Okay, how about this? Any opposition to that?
Mr. President, may I add one thing? See,
Yes,
I
sir.
think it should be reversed. I think it should go through this process, and if we want to expedite it, then we vote to expedite the process, not expedite the process and then decide to slow it down, because very seldom we're going to slow it down. That's my feeling.
Okay.
That we have something in there where we can expedite it, not slow it down. I mean, not expedite it and then slow down. I feel we should go deliberately slow, and if we feel it's something that we can expedite, then expedite it.
Okay.
Good point.
So should we have, I guess in either case for me, it's just, what are the criteria? That's what I've been saying. Like, do we need to have criteria for when we expedite something? Like, I wouldn't say that we should expedite something that is really like policy based. I would want to say only these administrative type things could be expedited.
Yeah. Can we just, I guess instead of going one way or the other, just add the component there that we can make a motion to expedite it. So therefore, everything goes through the regular process unless there's a motion to expedite. So for every resolution, there's that option there. Yeah, I make a motion given that, that this will affect operations, that we be able to expedite this resolution. And then if 4 says yes, expedite it, is a resolution the next day. What do you think about that?
I mean, my only hesitation with that is similar to what Councilman Herring was talking about, because if we don't have criteria for what that is, then all it's going to take is 4 council members to expedite anything, and things that could be, very, things that really should require more conversation. I'm just, trying to pull out, the things that, like, I would never have said, like, oh, let's expedite a farmer's market. Like, that required conversation, or even what we're talking about with the vaccine stuff. But something like, the asphalt, or like repairing a street, things that we need to do to keep the city going, to me, are the types of things that should fall in the category of what could be expedited. And then you decide, do you want to expedite it or not?
Yeah, and weren't we going to have that criteria anyway?
Well, that's
Right.
what I'm saying. I would be fine with whatever Councilman Herring is proposing, whether we say we expedite it and then slow it down, or choose to expedite it, as long as there's criteria. Like, it shouldn't be for any possible resolution.
Okay.
And so that's what I'm saying. Like, can we just define the criteria to separate? Like, these are kind of simple resolutions versus these are the ones that are more complex that should never be expedited.
Yeah. All right. So any opposition to that? We've come to that, that every resolution will go through the same process that it goes through now, with the caveat that there's criteria that if it meets a certain criteria, that a motion can be made that it be expedited. Any opposition to that? I think that's a great compromise. I saw a thumbs up from Ms. Guillaume, so, and I'm not hearing any other opposition, so that's that.
Do we need to agree on the criteria now, or what I propose, is that satisfactory?
I mean, do you have criteria now? Or I thought you guys.
It's initiated by the administration, appointments or terminations, grant acceptance, and maintenance. Because with the grant acceptance, we would have already had to agree that we needed to apply for the grant. So we are just now saying we got approved for the grant, we're going to accept it.
Any other criteria that council members can think of that should be included?
Let me say the grant acceptance one is an issue because we actually accepted a grant one time before. I mean, we actually applied for a grant one time before, and we did not accept the grant because citizens came out and they were completely against what we were doing, and they did not want to spend that money. They didn't want the project near their residence. So I think that one is a slippery slope because, again, citizens do want to have a comment on, if we're going to build something near there with a grant or whatever, they may not want it there. And it actually happened. We turned the grant back in. So that's what I'm saying. Some of these things, I mean, I can see appointments. Okay, yeah, we can look at appointments. Terminations, we can't do that in public anyway. That's got to be a closed meeting. That's a closed meeting discussion. You can't do that publicly, and you don't do it by resolutions.
Okay, that's fine. The grant acceptance, I just was going through over the last 2 years, the only grant acceptance we had was ARPA, and I just couldn't imagine a situation in which we would have not accepted ARPA.
Yeah, they have turned it back in.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Anything else from council? All right. Hearing none, the topics of discussion. We have spoke about all of them. I am going to make a motion that we go into closed session quickly to discuss personnel issue and an investigation that under the Closed Session Act cannot be discussed or is eligible to be discussed in a closed session. Yeah, it should not be long. It's fairly quick. But the council does reserve the right to go into closed session anytime during a public meeting. And that's pursuant to Article 10, State Government Article, pursuant to the Annotated Code of Maryland, State Government Article Section 10-508A. The council by majority vote may retire to executive or closed session anytime during the meeting. Should the council retire to executive or closed session, the chair will announce the reasons, which I have done, and a report will be issued at a future be disclosing the reasons for such closed session. So I make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, Councilwoman Jones,
Yes.
Councilwoman Fareed,
No.
Councilwoman Guillaume,
Yes.
Councilman Hairston,
This for the closed meeting?
yes.
Yes.
Councilman Herring,
Yes.
Vice President Ferguson,
Yes.
and my vote is yes. The only person I asked to stay behind for right now is the council clerk and Miss Beverly Habata. Everybody else, thank you for coming to the work session, and we will see you next week at the public hearing. The open session is now closed.